Yeah, hello. Welcome. Thank you so much for making it here today. Those of you who are here today, you're hardcore, you're absolute troopers. You have made it through to the final session on this course, Trust Your Own Guidance course. Thank you so much for being here. You make it what it is. This course is all about you and what you're bringing to this field, what you're asking for, what you're calling in. And so, I get to be kind of like along for the ride. And I cannot tell you how grateful I am that you're here, that you made it through this far, and that you're joining for today. Now, there's something very interesting happening with today's session. So first of all, I just want to say hello, Nina. Thanks so much for being there. You've just been fantastic all the way through this, and Pingle. Pingle is wonderful to see you. So much love. So much love. There's something just really interesting going on with today's session. And not only as the energies have been gathering for this all morning, so I cannot imagine what that means. But this video accidentally went out as public rather than private for just us. Now, I haven't been able to change that. Every time I go and try and change that, I get blocked. So there's something really interesting going on with all that. But what I did get before the start of it, this is why you guys were here so important today, and thank you so much, is that today it feels like we're holding a bigger field than ever before. I know we've done a few of these Q&A lives, and I know we've done quite a lot together like this, but today I can feel that together we're holding a bigger field than ever before. Now, I'm not going to pretend to know what that means, and that's all the guides are giving me. So, but I want to honor you for that, because it's you who are here right now that are holding that field. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I hope we've got glass of water, somewhere comfy, so you can go from sitting to, if you really want to, you can go from lying down or curling up, being even more comfortable without too much of a shift. Don't worry about it. It's just, ideally, and it might be nice to have a notebook and a pen by you, or just something you can make a note on. Oh, Eve, hello, welcome. So glad you made it, love. Really good to see you. Thank you for being here for this. So I think those are the ingredients. Other than that, we just need ourselves. And I can feel, that's it, the energy's coming in. I can feel the guides gathering. There's this lovely harmonic vibration happening here now, as everything gathers to bring through whatever it is we're calling for. Now, I know it's a Q&A session, but don't worry about having your questions in your head. Do, if you can, trust that they will just come in the moment. First, we're going to have a little alignment, a little guided mini alignment to really center us. And then the guides are going to bring through whatever they want to have bring through for us today. Now, sometimes that's the message. You can see they're coming in because I can't keep my eyes open. Sometimes that's the message. Sometimes they're going to guide us in a kind of energy alignment meditation. And we're just gonna find out what they've got for us. But whatever they've got for us, they're bringing it through our higher selves in the frequency of unconditional love, honoring the consent, the human consent of each and every one of us. And they're bringing it through a held field in a safe, loving way. Even knowing all that, I would always say, now is a beautiful moment to just take a moment to yourself. Close the outward facing eyes, perhaps. Turn them inwards, drop into the seat and center of being. So you can just feel physical sensations in the heart, in the chest. Not naming those, just residing here in a relaxed fashion. Noticing the breath. Rise and fall. And lift the drop. how that breath turns into a flow movement in the body, in the energy field even, in awareness. Breath can turn into a flow movement in our fields of awareness. We don't have to notice that. Now we have our beautiful heartbeat, that lovely rhythmic drum beat, grounding us in the here and now moment. Whatever's going on around us at any time, wherever we are. When everything is in a state of flux and change, there's always these steady rhythms within us. And even when our breath is all over the place, because our breath is a reflection of what we're doing with our energy and how we're meeting the life force, how we're dialoguing with life itself. When we place a little attention on how we physically feel in the heart and center, just notice what happens to those rhythms in that. We can do that with our eyes closed. When we're out and about, we can do it with our eyes open, and nobody has to know, do they, that we're centering. In the middle of traffic, in the middle of something chaotic going on around us. No one has to know what we're doing with our attention. And this is important because our attention is our sovereignty. Where we place our focus is our sovereign right. And there are so many agents of manipulations who would love to control that, who spend billions and billions on trying to manipulate where we place our attention, because they recognize it is known, it's recognized, it's quantifiable, it's measurable in profits for people who are trying to sell things. Where we place our attention is one of the most precious things that we have, and it's one of the most precious things that we give. So firstly, thank you for bringing your attention to this space and bringing it to your own heart and center. Now, throughout today's session, there's going to be words, there's going to be lots of talking, perhaps, I don't know, we'll find out. But I'm going to keep encouraging you to bring attention back to your heart and center, just noticing what's going on in your heart and center, not to get a reading, not to have a name for what's happening there, not to understand it or fix it, no frapping, no fixing, rescuing, and so on. We'll go into that more later. But just to be there, just to choose to take your sovereign right to place your attention in your sovereign center. And to practice doing that when there's screen time happening, when there's words and language and noises and frequencies coming at you, to practice having it here. Because as I said in the very first session, when we're anchored in our center, that's when our filters are highly aligned to allow in only what's for us. That's when we can get our inner readings for how do I feel while I'm listening to someone talk. How does this vibrate in me? Am I in resonance with it? That word yes, that word no. We have our discernment turned right up. So our filters are turned right up, our discernment is turned right up. And no one has to know. But just practice this for a moment, just while I'm going to talk. So practice, if you dare, keeping a little attention in your heart and center with the physical sensations there, and noticing how you feel while the words are happening. And then you might want to, just for a moment, not for long, really not for long, practice doing what we automatically do when we're watching a show or a film or something. Practice shifting attention to the speaker, to the screen of the speaker. And just notice what happens with your energy when you do that. I'm going to do it too. It's weird because I'm only seeing myself and your comments here, but just while I'm talking, do you notice the difference in how you feel? Is it as easy to get your discernment readings, to check your resonance, to check your inner sensations and responses when your attention is with whatever's going on the screen? Or is it easier to check how you really respond to what you're hearing when your attention shifts and lands again? So just shift it back now. In the heart and center, noticing the physical sensations there. You can play with switching before, backwards and forwards, but I'm going to suggest you keep your attention in the heart and center now. So when the guides come through, try a little mini alignment, which we're having now. When the guides come through, the words are like, I always think of them like stork's nests carrying a package. The words are like the storks, everything we can see and hear. The words are what get us to put our attention on the fact that the guides are bringing through something for us now. And where we place our attention, we open to receive something, don't we? There's a two-way energy flow. But when the guides talk, what they're really delivering is the package. It's the stork's package. There's frequencies. And those frequencies are way beyond just the information in the words. Now, the purpose in today's channeling is going to be activational, to activate our embodied connection to our signature blueprint, to activate more of our embodied access to our inner oracle. The guidance that comes from within, from us residing within the heart and center, resonating as the truth of who we are, asking higher self, what's for me now, and hearing the answers come as guidance in the many, many, many different ways guidance comes. So it's like sometimes those answers come as direct knowingness, don't they? And it's almost, how do we discern direct knowingness? How do we pick it apart from all of the other thoughts that are constantly going on, like responses and thoughts and the constant dialogue that's going on up there? Direct knowingness usually comes with something vibrational or something that engages our other senses and creates a moment for us. We're like, that wasn't just a normal thought. Now, for each of us, how we recognize that is going to be unique. But direct knowingness is one of the ways that our guidance comes in, and we get more than just a thought with it. Something happens, a signal, a strong signal. I'm somatic, so for me it's vibrational. You might be visual, sonorific, you might hear things or see things, but we make links that happen with repetition, and that's our discernment building, so that we recognize when direct knowingness comes in. The lovely phrase, knowing without knowing how you know, comes from a precious, beautiful guru teacher of mine. It's such a beautiful phrase, isn't it? And that's one way. Another way is we get guidance. These are ways we get guidance in the moment. We see things, we get visuals or visions. And our consciousness, our infinite consciousness, and our higher self speak to us in the language of visuals, which is almost like a word and picture game, because what we're doing is translating with the mind these complex, very complex structures and sequences of light encoded information which arrive as awareness, understanding, insight, inspiration, answers, direction, decisions. So sometimes you get the language which is more visual. Sometimes people actually hear the words. What they call that clairaudient. You hear the words. But quite often, guidance doesn't come in the moment, and it doesn't come when we're suddenly going, could you please help with this? I would love to know what to do right now. It doesn't come, does it? And we're going, can't get it. How annoying. But what it does is it comes in a kind of delayed time state. So we get it a few days later, or we get it when we're not looking. We essentially get it when we stop looking. There's that lovely fairy tale of the The man walking through the woods all night, trying to reach the castle that never comes any closer. And after a long night's walking and getting thoroughly fed up, at dawn he turns around, having completely given up trying to reach for it. And as he turns around, well, what do you know? There he is at the steps of the castle. And guidance, getting our guidance is very much the same. So quite often when we're trying too hard, it doesn't come through, does it? So we have to kind of, it's almost a, the mind kind of can be used as a bit of a trickster with this one to distract us. And sometimes our guides and our higher self will work like this through our mind to distract us when we've got a really difficult question that we're asking for guidance on. Because the more important the question, the harder it is to let go, isn't it? Right? Yeah. So, so the mind kind of becomes the trickster, and it kind of takes us off on a pathway where we think we're doing something else, so that we let go. So we stop trying to reach the castle, and we give up, and we turn around. And it's in those moments that guidance can come in, either internally as direct knowing, something we see, the inspiration that reaches us mentally, or something we hear, and all the other ways that we douse and get answers. Or it can come externally through the whole landscape of whatever we're experiencing in the moment. So we can be having a conversation with a friend, we can be witnessing a situation in the street, and our mind can be processing what we're seeing and actually bringing us answers that relate directly to the question we were asking. Or, you know, my favorite one, we do this a lot when we're driving, we'd have a real serious question about something, and a truck would go past with one word on it in white letters, 10 foot tall. You're like, oh, thanks, I did actually want that in 10 foot tall letters, and what do you know, I got it. So, but like we said before, reality can be psychotropic, and guidance can come through any time, through any vehicle, because absolutely everything that we experience is our subjective experience of what's going on around us. When we begin to see it like that, then we open the gateways a little bit wider even for our higher selves, for life, for our guides, for the love of all that is, to bring us answers to heartfelt questions. Because the person we see in the street, they're not us. We have no right to create their reality or to tell them who they are. We don't know. But our perception of that person, our experience of them, the chain of thoughts and triggers and responses that gets kicked off in us, that's ours. And it's not just that person, it's everything in any moment. And that is our subjective domain. We have absolute sovereign domain over how we respond, how we experience what we see, the responses, so the thoughts, the decisions, the choices, the observations, the conclusions, all of that. And we're always processing, mostly unconsciously, everything that's going on in our experience at any one time. So what do we do? So we will always bring a focus to, I want, the focus in the heart is I want a deeper connection to my guidance, please now. That's what I'm calling it. Bring it. And that's the focus we hold. Now imagine if you sustain that focus, you know, you wake up with it and you give it 10 minutes of your attention in the morning, or even 2, or even a second, but you give it your attention every day. And maybe you check in and you repeat that every you know, throughout the day. I really want to deepen my connection to my guidance. And maybe you have a sense of sending that question into, we've talked about higher self, but maybe you're just sending it to God, Goddess, all it is. Maybe you have a sense of some guides or angelic beings or guardian angels or whatever it is. You've got a sense of sending that question. Can I have a stronger, you're holding a focus. And with repetition, you begin to sustain that focus. So it becomes like a thread, part of your everyday fabric of consciousness, so that with everything you're seeing and with everything that's coming back to you, well, what do you know? There's an amplified focus. Now, it sounds a lot when we say it like this, that, you know, you could read the difference between getting guidance and reading into things what's not there. Hi, Stephen. Hello, Sandy. Great, you guys can make it. Nice to see you. Yeah, so there's a difference between discerning our guidance and reading into things what's not there. And reading into things can often come from a kind of when we're not able to accept a situation as it really is. Or when we're not able to accept that we've asked for guidance and the answer hasn't come yet. Or when we're really desperate to get answers, it can be very tempting to read into things. But with discernment comes recognition of the difference between when we're receiving guidance and when we are just cognitively constructing something in our heads. And there's such a difference, isn't there? Because a cognitive construct in our heads, we make it up, but it doesn't have any foundations. It's like a tower built on a stack of cards. It will tumble. It won't be connected into any synchronous events in our lives. It won't get that repetition and reinforcement that comes with them. It won't be externally reinforced. And it will stand alone, if you like, and it's quite vulnerable. Whereas when we get guidance, there is this ability to tell the difference between thought and what drops in as direct knowings. And there's a way of reassuring the mind that that's what's going on when we recognize the links. So we link it. Oh, well, when this thought comes, I get a vibratory all over feeling. So just think for a minute, you know, when you've had that, you've received something and it's dropped in and it's coming as direct guidance or direct knowing, sorry. Or you've had a vision and you've recognized that this is more than just thinking or imagining or making things up. You're receiving a message. What comes with it? Do you get a feeling in the body? Do you hear a sound? I know Kathy says a lot of the time she'll have a thought and she'll hear bird song will suddenly seem really sharp and clear. Bird will sing. There's a connection. There's something happens to help us link it. So just think of those moments for you. What have you felt? What have you seen or heard? How have you told the difference? And then maybe you can write that down. This is how I know. If you feel like you don't need to, don't do it, but it can really help the doubting mind. Or if you don't have something, if you're not sure, then you can write down, I'm not sure. And if you're not sure, you can call it in. I want to be sure. Show me how I can tell the difference between direct knowingness coming in as guidance and some construct of the mind that's a created temporary thing. We're into very subtle territory because quite often even guidance can work through constructs of the mind, but we're going to follow that rabbit down the hole another day and just work with the more basic elements here of those strong moments when you're like, whoa, yes, I just received something. So what do we link it with? And then when we do that, we tell the mind, the doubting mind, hey, look, there's a link here, you can trust this. And it helps to build discernment. But it's really good when we're accessing guidance not to kid ourselves, not to pretend that we got guidance when we're a little bit unsure. See, one of the qualities of deepening our relationship with guidance is what you might call a Zen quality. It's that ability to hold two opposites equally open at the same time. Now, we don't want to do that for too long. You want to close, if you're holding out two opposites in total ambivalence open for a long time, it can actually cause problems, cognitive problems. So it's good to be able to close those down and get our answers when we're looking for answers. But for example, you ask a question something comes in and you're like, that could be my guidance, or it could be a thought. And the ability to say, I don't know which it is vital. So it's quite tempting to go, oh, I'm just going to call that guidance because I don't like holding two opposites open. But to hold those opposites open, that could be guidance or it could be a thought. I don't know. And it's in that I don't know space where you don't close them down too quickly. That's when we can deepen our relationship to guidance. Because quite often we're like, oh, it's just a thought. We can dismiss it just so we can move on. Or we'll say, oh, well, it's definitely guidance, just so we can move on. And if we go one way, oh, it's just a thought, we dismiss it, we shut ourselves down to guidance. If we go the other way and say, oh, it was definitely guidance, I can definitely trust that as guidance, and we're a little bit unsure, we create a dissonance in ourselves that's just not certain. And that dissonance will grow and grow and grow, and it will undermine the foundations of our own ability to discern. And when there comes a crisis moment where it's really important to trust that the guidance we're getting is guidance, there'll be a wobble there. I don't know, I'm not sure. And there are lots of reasons for having a wobble when we're asking for guidance in a crisis, but we don't want discernment to be one of them. We want to really trust. And it's okay to say, I don't know if the thought I had was me getting guidance or it was just a thought because I want some that my mind made up. It's okay to say I don't know, because the next step from those two options is higher self guides, can I have a bit more clarity on this, please? We call it in. It's that simple. So when we have uncertainty and we don't know if what we're getting is guidance or if it's just coming from something we've made up, call it in, because that support can really come. I mean, so often we think that we have to be the ones doing everything, don't we? But call it in and know that developing a trusting relationship within a guidance takes time. Deepening that will continue to take time. And if you can dare to place the priority of, it's more important for me that I build this relationship with my guidance, that I deepen my discernment, so I really trust when I'm getting guidance, I can tell the difference between what's a thought construct, what's wishful thinking, what's my imagination, and what is a guide, something that's coming from my guidance. And if you make that more important than getting the answers in the moment, like, please just tell me if it's yes or no, you know, or whatever it is. If you can make building that relationship more important, then you give yourself time, you give yourself space. But also the most important thing, the guides are almost laughing when they say this, like the most important thing about deepening your relationship, your trusting relationship with your own guidance, is calling in support from the guides, your higher self, God, Goddess, all it is, life, your angels, your guardian angel, look, wherever you're turning, is actually calling in support in that process. So often we feel like we should be getting it right. Either we're getting it right or we're getting it wrong. We should have tried harder, and oh no, I'm not doing it right. And it's not like that. We call for help. You're like, I don't have clarity here. I don't have discernment here. I want it. Help. So that was quite a lot of a big download there on discernment. But I just want to, and if I've told you this before, I'm going to apologize, but I just want to share with you when I first started making connection to higher self. And I was quite new to meditation, some of the phenomena that were coming with it. And I didn't have, you know, if you'd asked me about 6 months prior to this moment, did I believe in guides or channels or angels, I'd have kind of tutted and raised my eyes a little bit and gone, no, don't be silly. But I was having to make quite a quick transition and open to a lot very quickly at that time. Anyway, I was doing a lot of meditation, doing a lot of soul searching. I had ME. I wasn't able to function in life. I was very, very ill, and I had been for a long time. And there was no help I could find outside of myself. So I turned inwards and gone, and had this sense of, hey, you know, there's always been a guardian angel there. I remember these keynote points in my life where my life had been saved by some miraculous thought that just landed there, and I knew it hadn't come from just me. And I started turning to the wherever it had come from. I didn't even name it, didn't call it God, I didn't call it higher self, I didn't call it anything. But I started turning to it because I trusted it. It had saved my life on more than one occasion. And I started asking these soul-searching questions about what was I doing wrong with my life? What was I doing wrong with my energy? How had I got myself this ill, this debilitated, and in a position where I was the only person who could help myself, you know? And I started taking real ownership of what I was asking for. I thought, well, is it to do with my thoughts? You know, what are the thoughts that are harming me? And so I was focused a lot on the thoughts. What are the emotions I'm running that are harming me? I was focused on. So anyway, I was asking these questions, and I just have this memory of I'd ask a question, and then I'd have a whole river of thoughts that would happen in answer to the question. And there'd just be one thought. Alongside one thought, I'd get this bright blue light shine in front of me, like somebody had turned on a tiny little lamp in front of me. And then the thoughts would carry on. And I was like, what? I really thought I had an ocular problem as well. I was like, have I been staring into candlelight too often? Is here, you know, what's going on with, I've got eye problems now on top of everything else. Well, marvelous, you know, and that went on for ages. I'd ask a question, I'd be thinking through the answer, and then randomly, in amongst all those thoughts, I'd get a sudden flash of incredibly bright blue light. And I started to become fascinated with this blue light. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't understand it. I didn't know why I was getting it. It took about 3 months, maybe a little bit more actually. I mean, for me to really trust that this blue light was to do with the connection I was having to higher self. And the connection was lighting up every time, in amongst all the thoughts. One of those thoughts was a communication from higher self. And it was to let me know that, yeah, this was a I'd never heard anyone else talk about getting guidance like this. I still haven't really. And it took me a long time to trust that. And it took me a long time going, well, that could be anything. I'm not going to jump to conclusions. And I always thought that not jumping to conclusions is partly why I've got such trust in the guidance that comes now. Because I spent months just recognizing that this blue light would shine in connection to one single thought, and then I would start to make a note of that thought, and I would write it down, and then I would wait and see. Was there any backup in life? You know, did I get that validated? Was there an experience that backed that up? You know, or was that just random? And eventually I began to see that actually that thought, when I isolated that as the one principle, you know, the relevant thought, when I followed it or when I applied it in life, I got good results. I always got good results. And then I began to notice other things. It's like, well, okay, it wasn't just the light. Then I began to notice a physical resonance. It's like I saw the light and I had a physical vibratory experience. So what I'm saying this for is that it took me months, and I had really bright lights showing up, but I didn't rush to draw a conclusion about what they meant. And I'm grateful I didn't. And it took a long time to trust what that was, and a long time to trust to then get another dimension of discernment. So I had the visual, and then I had this somatic vibrational. So we're all unique. I would be very surprised if anyone else comes to me and says, you see a bright light too. If you do, great, tell me. I'd love to hear that. I really would. And these days, I don't just see blue lights, I get other. But that's not all. And I don't just trust those blue lights. I trust that inner resonance that comes when I'm getting my guidance. Anyway, enough of all that. That was definitely lecture mode, wasn't it? So just take a breath and then think of what for you, maybe write this down if you've got your pen and paper, just what for you, when you suspect you might be getting your guidance, or you know you're definitely getting guidance, what else comes with that? What gives you discernment? I know we've done it again, we're just building on that. And just see if there's anything else that you've been able to recall in this time. And remember, we are all very different. very abstract, very different signals we can get that lets know that guidance is what's coming through, not just the litany of thought. All right. And as you're doing that, I can feel the guides gathering to bring through something of a much different frequency. Okay. So when the channeling comes through, sorry, if you're still writing, go for it. When the channeling comes through, just remember what we said at the beginning. Rather than focusing attention on the screen or the words, shift it to rest and reside in the physical sensation in the center of the chest. Give the mind a job to do, to notice the rise and fall of breath, that flowing movement. And I would suggest stay in the still point while that movement, beautiful, is happening. Okay. Such love coming through. I can feel a real expansion. It's like they're weaving an expansion. I'm just checking. It's not just my field, it's all of us. You can make your invocation now to safely receive only what's for you in a way that's loving, benevolent, and in absolute integrity and safety. Guides will always bring through what is safe and loving, but I'm always going to encourage you to make that invocation for yourself. Beloveds, we are gently adjusting your capacity to open to the frequencies we are going to transmit in this session, which are specifically to help you activate a more discerning and deeper connection to your inner guidance, to your teams of guides who are collectives in consciousness that gather to support you. In some eventualities, they gather for just a time, for a specific purpose, a set purpose. They convene around your intentions to bring in the support that can help you with whatever you have set your creative energies and focus on. That could be anything in your life, anything at all. There are always collections of communities, collections of beings who are willing, ready, available, and for whom it's nothing more than absolute joy to come and support you for what you may think are the most banal reasons. You may have something in your life that's very domestic that you don't think is worthy of higher guidance, and there will be collectives in consciousness whose job it is to support you specifically with those intentions. In our eyes, there's no difference in importance. There is simply the creative intention, the drive, the focus, the energy that you dedicate to whatever it is that's in front of you, and the love that is willing to support you in that. There is no such thing as too small or too grand when it comes to receiving support. If it matters to you, it matters to those who are here to support you. It is very much that simple. Some guides will convene around those purposes, and So I'm getting the word disconvene because I haven't got the right language in my head. And disappear, shall we say, for when that purpose is fulfilled or the energy around it has moved on. Or if you shift your energy mid-purpose to something else, then the support that was there for this purpose, he really wants to say, disapparates, and new support arises for whatever you have shifted your focus to. So understand that you are the creative consciousness calling in support that convenes around your focus. Other guides will convene around you for a longer period of time. And this is so that you can have access to sustained support in your learning, growing, and spiritual growing, developing the qualities that you as a soul decided before your incarnation, or beyond and outside of your incarnation, you would like to explore, that you would like to develop, ways in which you have decided at a higher level of yourself to grow while you are incarnate here now. There are guides who walk the long walk with you, who are by your side, who have known you since you were a child, have known you on the other side, and will walk with you until you die. In some cases. For those of you in these quickening times of shared evolution in consciousness, you may experience the phenomena of having changing sets of guides. Guides who are here gathered to help you learn and move to the next level. And then there you are, it's time for another set of guides to come and help you move to the next level, as though this was some kind of video game and you were here to complete all the levels so you can out or win. This we jest, but it is actually a serious office where, for those of you in quickening periods of your life growth or your spiritual growth or your expanding awareness to the multi-dimensions of oneness consciousness and how that relates to you humanly, which is a lot of you are here walking with in this lifetime, here and now. Sets of guides will turn up to move you through the various cycles and phases. Sets of guides of specific gifts, for you will hold different foci within your different phases of evolution for sure, and you will need different kinds of support. There is an innate intelligence governing who comes to you, and all is directed through that innate, which can be seen as convalescence, the conglomeration of all that you are, at all dimensions, at all levels of the self incarnate and the other selves you've been in incarnation, and the higher self within which all these different incarnations coexist and connect to each other, just like synapses connect. You are, and they are here to help you fulfill your purpose. Again, in a much more etheric sense. They recognize the long purpose, the unwritten purpose, the core reason for your being here in this lifetime at this time. They're here to help you, support you in your quickening ascension. They are here for many different levels of purpose. For a human being has an instant purpose, the purpose of getting up and making a cup of tea in the morning, if you're British. The purpose of fulfilling certain projects and activities throughout your day, that some simply deal with the immediacy of your environment and its requirements or fulfillments of needs, and other tasks that you engage in throughout your day, they're for a longer term purpose. You want to achieve something with your work, with your projects, with your marriage, with your home, with your life. And then there are purposes underneath that, which is this is why I'm alive, why I'm incarnated. And this is where I'm at with that. And those are the purposes for which you may have changing groups of guides. And then there is the pure love purpose of why you might have a guide who walks with you from the day you're born till the day you die. So you are never alone. Always you have more than one companion. In fact, you have a multitude throughout all the dimensions of consciousness. But we are speaking of beings that you might recognize as having an identity here. Always you have a companion by your side. You have more than that, far more than that, as we have looked at, as we studied with higher self and the nature of consciousness, as though all you are connected to, everything that surrounds you, are dimensions of consciousness. Everything can be communicated with in this way. I mean, this is what it is to be an open channel, not just to work with one set of guides or one guide or changing sets of guides. To be an open channel is to recognize that all of everything is consciousness. Consciousness can have a voice. Again, the voice you connect with, the guidance that comes, the consciousness that you can access, hear from, speak with, and dialogue with, will convene always around your creative purpose. There is nothing more sacred in this universe, and certainly in this earth, than the creative purpose, the creative principle. And human beings, you have this free will around what you choose to focus on, where you choose to focus your creative energies. There's this terrible tumbling sense of always there being a wrong and a right way to focus your creative energies, but essentially you're ambassadors of one consciousness, experiencing itself in an free will environment where it gets to choose through a vehicle of individuation, you. What happens when it uses the apparently arbitrary, but not at all, set of responses and choices to pick a creative focus that then all of consciousness convenes around. You have elemental consciousnesses in your kingdom, all within the earth consciousness herself. And they are the backstage consciousnesses behind manifest creation, what's physical and touchable, tangible, and you would say real from your perspective, we think. The elemental consciousnesses exist in absolutely every physical thing there is, in your body, in the table, in the landscape, in the air, in the elements. Elemental consciousness has the job of being responsive to human creative directive. And this is really our job. That's why what we're here to remind you of. There is a sovereignty in taking ownership for deciding how you want to align your creative focus. And many of you already embody the beautiful principles of joy. Joy-aligned creative focus. Joy-aligned creative focus will bring you into direct alignment with the truth of who you are. That lovely signature blueprint that nobody else in the whole of existence has, just you. The totality of all of everything has downstepped through the dimensions into this wonderful focus that exists only in the moment and yet experiences itself with a chronology of a past and a future. And that's you. And when you choose joy as the compass which aligns your creative principle, what are you focusing on? What do you choose to put in front of you now? Then you're aligning your creative energies, your doingness with your beingness. the truth of who you are. And the song of this lovely signature blueprint is sung out throughout the spheres of consciousness. You become a blessing on all of reality. Now, for a lot of you, that is what you equate with right. And not doing that is something that feels wrong, where we would suggest it is more of a preference. It is perhaps preferable to feel that sense of alignment in what you're doing and how it resonates with who you are. But this is why when we start our channelings, we start every single one with a suggestion that you place your attention in your heart and center and notice from stillness physical sensations here. So you notice how you resonate with what you are receiving, whether you are watching something on Netflix, on YouTube, whether you're scrolling social media, whether you're listening to a conversation, whether you are indeed connecting with guidance for yourself. Turning to your higher self, turning to God. God, it's all that is. And asking help or answers, please. Or which way do I go? It is that turning inwards that puts you in direct resonance with your signature blueprint. And in that spaciousness of allowing that the answer might not come in the moment, you might have to wait, and it might not come internally. It might not come in 10-foot tall letters, but it will come. And it will come just as you are the man walking through the woods to look for the castle and you let go of the king, and there it is. It'll come when you let go, when you're not expecting it so often. But it will come. The guidance will always come. It's your ability to hear it that we're working with right now while we speak, while we transmit these frequencies, not really to give you information for your mind to digest, but to help your focus align for whatever goes on internally in you when we bring up the matter of guidance. Higher self, signature blueprint, truth of who you are, your creative purpose, your soul purpose, why you're here, what you want to do, but what you feel most alive to. That joy. Joy is such a beautiful signature energy, is it not? So often, when you are aligned with the truth of who you are, the energy that flows through you from the all that is, that maps an amazing alchemy through your centers, through your chakras, through your divine pathways, that's breathing you into being moment to moment. You're in connection with that breath when it's in harmony within itself. And when it's within harmony within itself, it's not about being a little human who's very good and being good to God. It's more that you're not being well behaved and getting it right. It's more that you are aligned within the universe. You are the shape you are. You are the flower that you are. You're the song that you are. You're allowing that breath of the all that is that flow through you in a way that reminds you that you are one with the all that is, part of everything, and yet unique in this moment, that you have a purpose, one you've chosen for yourselves at, as we say, higher levels. And that is when you can feel where the energy wants to flow. So much of guidance is about listening to where the energy wants to flow, and it is joy that is your biggest signpost for that. But what are the other signposts we would encourage you to ask now? It's not just joy, is it, that lets you know you're in alignment. Sometimes you might feel peace, contentment, softness, clarity, focus, knowingness. You might have the qualities that put you in touch with your divine self. And you just know, don't you, that when you have those moments, that all is well. The decision you've just made or the place you've got yourself to. That's where you're meant to be right now. All is well. So we ask you just in this moment, what's your signature resonance? Is it joy? Beauty? Is it love? Is it peace? Is it contentment? Is it fulfillment? What comes to you in those moments where you're like, oh yes, that's my path. Trust those. And when you have options in front of you, you can lay out your options. We've done this, haven't we? Lay out your options before you, one straight ahead, one to the right, one to the left, and turn towards each of them with that inner listening that we so frequently invite you to go back to. And notice the resonance that happens when you turn towards different possibilities. So, beloveds, thank you so much for listening. We are reaching our, concluding our offering for the day. The frequencies that we wish to offer have been received as frequency. In the heart, lovingly, where they belong. And what is sent is never what arrives, is it? Each of you will receive differently and appropriately what's for you. So thank you so much for being in this space with us, for opening to this transmission and for allowing us to fulfill our purpose. For this is what excites us more than anything, what brings us to life. This is where aliveness lives for us. It's in meetings like this with you, conscious meetings. We cannot tell you the joy we feel or thank you enough for the beauty and the quality of loving connection that we experience in these joinings. You are so extraordinarily precious and such an honored part of our experience. We have tremendous reverence for you, your bravery in choosing to be human, in choosing to find your way to this point and then find your way home. And you are. Yes, it's rather overwhelming kind of awe and love coming through me now from the guides. So I've only got a human heart, but it feels like, wow, kind of pulsing rather a lot. Collectively towards us. We leave you now. Thank you so much. So it feels like the other guides come in and respond to our questions in the next part of today's session. But just take a moment now in the heart, opening to the body, flow of the breath, and be with however you are. And you might want to write down impressions as they come if you've got your. Don't worry about whether you write down the right things, just anything that comes. Write it down now. It's the act of writing that will anchor in some of what we're receiving and give us conscious access to it later. Yeah, so just what did we notice while we were listening to that? Some of the feelings, maybe, some of the images, things we might have heard, some things that were going on in our external environment, but also the thoughts, soft impressions. Okay, now I am going to give us a break now. We're going to come back in 15 minutes. Just really take your time with this. There's enough time to sit and write and get a cup of tea if you want. So we'll come back in 15 minutes. It's going to be 1:45. Thank you, Stephen. I'm going to put that up if I may. Really helps. Thanks for writing it in the comments. That's lovely. So you know that your mind has to be quiet for this to come through. But peace and calmness can be your signature signposts. Thank you. That feels really precious. Thank you for sharing. Right, loves. I should be back at 1:45. All right, guys, welcome back. So I hope we're feeling a little bit refreshed, and maybe we got to write something back down while we were doing all that. I can feel that the guides haven't really left me. That the field felt really held even while we were on break. So let's just drop back into where we were. Okay. Beautiful. I'm just feeling this really beautiful heart transmission, present now for each of us. Mm. So having this sense of us, each of us, what I'm being shown is it's like we're energetically, we're beautiful flower shapes. And it's flowers made of light codes is actually how it looks from here. Almost like outlines of light. Very, very beautiful. But around this nexus of consciousness that each of us could be seen as the guides whom we're calling in, each of us, those teams of consciousness from here to support us with our momentary focus of purpose, with our soul purpose, and with our mid to long term purposes, creative life purposes, you could say. That each of us seem to be calling in quite a stronger, deeper connection and saying yes in our hearts to that connection. See, when guides as beings come into our field to help with to help us achieve, to help bring support for whatever it is that we're bringing our creative focus to, the more we say yes in our hearts to those loving connections, the more permission they have to bring through support. And it has to be a conscious yes. And the reason for this is that deep honoring of human free will. The higher self will always recognize that, which is why, so much emphasis during this course has been on turning to our higher selves, saying that all guidance comes through higher self, even those guides we connect with, and that we open only to guides of unconditionally loving integrity, that we ask for the highest guidance in any one moment, which is like asking for the most appropriate guidance at the highest possible frequency in any one moment, so that when we're resting in our hearts, as in this moment, and turning to that beautiful, some new connections for us, for each of us. I can feel I have a new connection coming in now, and some connections we already have, but deepening, strengthening, being welcomed more into our practical daily human experience of life, to bring support even more deeply into those physical dimensions where we're calling for it. So this body doesn't walk alone in this earth. So if you like, what's coming for me is a sense of kind of turning an inner smile toward those who are coming to greet us, to work with us, or to deepen how they're already supporting us. So just taking these moments with inner communion, just being in your heart, noticing how you feel and the impressions that come, but with this heart-filled yes and thank you. And I welcome the support you are bringing. I say yes to the support that's there for me, to the guidance that can come in for me now. And don't worry if that feels a bit vague or a bit abstract. All you're really doing is sitting in your center and saying yes to some support, knowing that it's coming from unconditionally loving sources, drawn to you to help with your own creative focus in the moment now, these next few days and weeks, and this next life cycle of your own life. It's like a flower has, the larger petals on the outside and the little petals on the inside that relate to our now focus. What are we doing now? Our slightly longer creative life focuses, and our deepest soul purpose focus. All those things we're able to receive support for and have guidance and connecting with our guides for that support. I think that's why they were bringing me the image of the flower and showing that we are like that flower in some ways to them. And remember that we don't all have to call on guides. We can all, it is just as well to turn inwards to the God consciousness we are, to the love of all that is. To the angels, to the elementals. So now we said yes to those without knowing who we called in and why, but trusting that they're being called in around our creative purpose, the focus of our creative purpose, these different tiers. We may each of us have a request. Maybe not now, but let's just see. I, for one, have asked to know more, to know the elementals more, to strengthen my guidance with the elemental dimensions of consciousness. So for me, this is something that I'm saying, thank you for everything coming to me. And I would also really love to get to strengthen my connection to the elemental guides in my life right now. And for you, it might be your star guides. It might be those who connect you to other planets that you might have incarnated on. It might be your angelic guides. It might be your earth connections guides. It might be the guardian angel. It might be the one who walks with you from birth to death. Or it might be your power animals. Just spend some moments with yourself before we get into questions and answers now. Just asking, is there an area of guidance specifically would like to strengthen? I choose to call in a stronger connection with now. Okay. Right, well, that's kicked off a lot of activity, so fantastic. It seems to be quite a lot of us have an area where that's true for us. Beautiful. And you can just turn to those directions and say thank you. Because as you ask, so it comes. Thank you, and yes, and yay. Celebration energy. It's a wonderful one to bring into our connection to guidance. A celebration that it is. Okay, right. So, loves, now we've reconvened. And let's shift into the second phase of today's session, which is to actually bring our questions. Now, we may have questions we've written down or that are alive in our minds, and that's fine. But before we ask, I would just suggest drop into the heart. Let go. Take a breath. And then as the question comes, spontaneously drop it in the comments. And take your time. Really don't rush this. Because while we're all gathering our questions, we're still making those connections and deepening those connections like we were a moment ago. Those guides who are coming to us for a purpose, and we don't even know who they are or why, but we can trust why they're coming to support us now. And those connections we just ask specifically, I want to strengthen my connection with these guides, or for this reason. And maybe your question is, I want more support and help with this, please. I'd like to bring in and say yes to and give full permission for loving, unconditionally loving support and guidance to reach me in this area of my human experience now. Okay, I'm going to do that too. And as your questions come that you want to ask, then you just drop them in the comments, like I say. Let's spend this time calling in. What are we really calling in consciously now? Hey, love. Hi, Sandy. That's really beautiful. Kelly, thank you. Right. Okay, so we've got two beautiful questions. Kelly or Sandy. Sandy, we're going to start with you, my love. And I'll put that up. So, says you're asking, are there any messages from my guides about the sadness that has been showing up for the last 2 days, please? I really want to shift my perspective about that connection from work. Thanks. Right, yes. Okay. Let's just see what comes through, love. So, first off, beloved, you might do well to connect to that sadness as it lands in your heart space. It is there for a reason, and your fear that it might mean something to do with your current situation is just maybe making you block it a little bit. What we suggest is it is the sadness of griefs gone by, or grief gone by, griefs from the past. Yeah, griefs from the past. It is the sadness of lost love and lost opportunity for love. That sadness is running as a vibration in your field, interfering with the new beautiful truth that you are moving into and that you are using your current work situation to move into. Do you see you are entering a more expansive, uplifted, and completely redefined relationship around love, relationships, and your expectations? The sadness is from your past. It wants to be felt. It wants to be allowed to move and breathe in your field so that it may be seen and witnessed with love and compassion, so that there is an honoring of the past at this precipice threshold moment where you are to move into a different flavor for your future. We suggest that you don't fear it, and at the same time, you don't ignore it, but make time to recognize it is a part of your past speaking before it leaves. And you can, if you like, cradle this part as the purity and the simplicity of the sadness vibration that it is. As though you were just allowing a sensation of sadness to be present for a while, as a movement in you. And the more you allow it, the more freely it leaves your field. Your intelligence, your innate intelligence, the innate intelligence of your system has brought this up for you to face because it is recognized within your field as holding a dissonant vibration, one that is not compatible to the future you have just asked to create, that you have aligned yourself and committed yourself and shown up for. Everything is convening around that creative intention of yours to show up for love in a certain way, in a lighter or lifted way. And so it is like going through a doorway where you cannot carry the heavy baggage. It will not fit. It cannot come with you. You must leave that heavy baggage on this side of the doorway, but you can't just skip ahead as though you were never carrying it in the first place. Perhaps if you can honor it like this, it will not come with the attachments to meaning that are currently slowing it down and keeping it stuck in your system. Free it from having any meaning, meet it as a vibration, and it can beloved leave beautifully, for that is what it wants to do. Thank you. We hope this helps a little. Thank you for receiving, for asking. And they're giving me, just while they're talking, I just keep seeing, it's impossible not to describe this, but I just keep seeing given the butterfly. Such a beautiful butterfly. So they have it, the image that goes with this moment and why the sadness. It's almost as though if you were a caterpillar in a chrysalis and you just thought that's all you were ever going to be, that would be quite sad, wouldn't it? But no, you're actually, of course, there is a butterfly moment awaiting. And so the sadness is not really real. This is what I'm hearing you say. Sadness is not really real. So let me just check my. So is there anything? Okay, and I can just feel something energetic moving around your the left brain here. And that feels like, that's nice. It's lifting. The minute I say that, I can feel you shift your attention to it, and it moves quite quickly. Ah. So there's just some kind of inhibitors, if you like, energetic inhibitors there around the mind. Expectations is what I get. So this makes sense because that's that hot when the frequency of sadness is connected to the expectations we have around any part of our lives, then it's a bit of a dampener, isn't it, on what can manifest for us. It's almost like it's limiting what can manifest, because expectation is part of our toolkit for how we create reality all the time. There we go, that's beautiful. I'm now seeing the butterfly, the light of the butterfly appear there. I'm being shown the light of the lotus, very specifically connected to the left brain, not the usual brown lotus there. And I can feel another wave of more subtle, but nonetheless energetic configurations that are part of that inhibitor matrix. So as you shift the emotions, old matrices in the mind that learn to have lower expectations of what can manifest, they naturally dissolve. You know, they don't need to be unpicked. And that's what we're being shown here. You let the emotion move, and the thoughts, the limiting thoughts, unpack themselves around that, because you're literally giving new information to the mind vibrationally from the heart and from the heart fields. Okay, that feels much more expansive now. A sense of nicely, beautifully aligned expansion happening. Thoughts, your beliefs, your expectations. And you can now, what I would suggest is ask your guides to help you let go of this, as though you're lifting it up and handing it over. Recognize sadness is what you're letting go of, and ask them to help clear that, and ask them to help with bring in the new sets of expectations you can have around relationship now. You know, you've just let go of a load of inhibitors. There's a lovely new expansion here. So you can ask them for help setting new expectations. I was going to say habits, but I don't get habits. Setting new expectations, new thoughts, and new beliefs around how you're creating your emotional love life. So there's a bit of pressure around the right brain now. It's almost what I get is it's almost where sadness lived in thought form, you know, in the abstracts. And this is beautiful because it means you're dissolving something at its root, right at the heart and root of why it ever came about in the first place. So I can feel this lovely unraveling of, you know, what I'd call sadness in thought form, and where it was kept in the mind. Yeah, and now I'm just getting the celebration energy. So the guides are just kind of cheering and celebrating you. And keep asking them for help on this. All right, love. Thank you, thank you. Sandy, thank you. That was such a beautiful question. Okay, so everyone just take a breath, recenter in ourselves, in our heart space. Breathe, receive. Keep grounded attention on the soles of the feet, I would suggest. And we are going to ask about Kelly. Hello. Right, I've been working with Kelly just to give you guys some context. And in our last session, an old woman in black came up and it relates to Portugal. So can the guides offer any insight about her and how I can work with her? Because I feel she's blocking me in some way. Yeah, I think so. That's a nice question. Thank you. All right. So, beautiful. Okay, so Kelly, they're inviting you to bring her up before you as though you've got a visual on her. It doesn't matter if that's a vague visual. We've connected with her as a kind of something that wants to show up. And as you're bringing her up before you, I would keep your pen in hand by your notebook if you've got that. Very, make the intention to go neutral. And you can do that and rest in the heart and just first of all, notice how your heart feels towards her. Like, what's the heart response? The very first heart response before the thoughts come in or anything else comes in. Those are the vibrations that are here clear. So as you call her up before you, that's the clue. That's it. So just really opening now, give full permission for whatever's showing up in the heart space to take up more space. Trust that you are the field in which this is arising. So you're just listening. What your heart is going to show you now. That's it. This is going to let some energy move around it. So I'm feeling kind of, there's a pang in the heart, top of the head. I'm getting energy in the right hand. It's almost like she's got a stick and there's all this pressure. Her arm is used to being leaning on this stick and there's a lot of pressure in her index finger. That's the middle one. Ooh, yeah. And there's, it's funny actually, there's Jin Shinjitsu, the connections there. The index finger connects to the hate energy. Now, we're not saying she's hating, but it means there's something there really bunched up around the knuckles. And then I get the sense of this old woman who's just, she's almost squinted out at life for a long time. And her fire energy, her doing this energy, it's gone into the stick and into the ground. And there's some, there we go, we're just naming it. I can feel it shifting energetically from these places there. So we are getting I'm getting the kind of crotchety old lady vibe over here, but just stay with what moves in your heart, listening to what's moving in your body, because vibrationally this is going to be, oh, it's almost like you've been wearing her on the inside, as though she was the tiniest gossamer thin veil. But there she was, and not the whole of her, but little bits of her that just weren't quite released into the breath of renewal, into the field of renewal and return, renewal and return. So I'm just being shown her kind of almost living inside you, but all she really wants is a little bit of space to be noticed, so that some of those trapped energies from her can rejoin that breath of renewal. And so we're doing past life healing really, but it's quite a unique way of doing it. I haven't seen it show up like this before. So yeah, so just stay with what's moving in your body, what's moving in your heart. And I'm getting the sense of, while you've got your attention with that, I can really feel, not only has she been looking out at the world through a squint, but she's also, her feminine side has been really compacted down, like very suppressed. Like she's had to be in a masculine. And I'm feeling a lot of pressure in the right brain. But just as we're noticing it, it's like lifting. It really is like a gossamer veil, actually. She just keeps lifting out of your field, actually. And now I'm feeling it's shifted to something around the neck. Like her spine was a bit crooked. Something was crooked there physically for her. So it's like she was, a feminine side was compacted, but she wasn't getting that lovely linear light from source. There was a kind of skew that was interrupting the light energy coming in. And there's quite a lot of pressure and pain that she carried around the head and neck. For some reason, it's showing up now to be released through you, so we'll go with it. And I'm kind of always hearing, I was shutting off divine flow. I was shutting off divine flow. So, okay, it feels like the part, if it was going to be a mechanism in consciousness, it would be the part of us that feels like, instead of just letting things flow easily, instead of just letting learning happening naturally, and this is very much around you and language, I know, and all the pain is around the head and the neck, and not having that lovely flow coming through the crown, and having the feminine side of open and allowing and being with flow, really compacted down and suppressed. And she's saying interruption of divine flow. And what I'm being shown through you guys looks very much to me like it's this mechanism of feeling like we've got to be the ones learning, and that we've got to do this all mentally, and we've got to really overtax the dexterity of our cognitive faculties in order to learn new things. And there's just this kind of past life from Portugal showing up in you, from this lovely little old lady in black who life was really hard for her, and she did have to struggle, and she didn't have access to divine flow, and she didn't even have access to, that she didn't have the feminine divine flow. She didn't have access to divine light, the masculine either. And and I still got this kind of scrunched up frontal lobe, having to figure everything out the hard way. It's like she had to figure everything out the hard way. And it's like you've gone back to the, I don't want to go into that yet. We'll just let her keep talking. Because I'm really feeling that scrunched up, trying too hard. And it was never enough. That's the other thing that rides on this, is a sense of, oh, it was never enough. You try really, really hard and it's not enough. It's like, well, no, of course it's not enough. It's interrupting divine flow. It's trying to do it all from a separate human place, being disconnected. Whereas actually learning a new language and learning it easily is about allowing that reconnection. You've lived other lives in Portugal. You're not supposed to learn that way and suddenly channel, your previous understanding of this, but it's almost like you're connected to higher self and the other lives you've lived there when you moved back there. And this one came and went, right, well, there's quite a lot needs healing here, so we're going to do that now. Okay. So just while we're naming it, well, we're giving her a bit of space and letting these various sensations, as I say, of the imprint of her where she's kept things scrunched up, as we're naming them. I don't know how you're feeling now, because I'm feeling a bit of openness, feeling things move. It feels like whatever this is, of allowing a more direct connection, source from above. Okay, now she's very sweet. She's showing me like a black and twisty heart. It's not what she really had. This is what she thinks she has. And so I'm just going to invite you, while that's here, as though you're talking to an older version of you, another past life version of you, just instead of seeing a black and twisty heart in this old lady, see a lovely pink, beautiful one, because that's what I'm seeing. That's what's actually there. Because there's been some pain carried around the heart area. And just as you're holding that image of her with her beautiful heart, seeing her as the love she is, as the beauty she is, this past life aspect that's showing up here. Okay, now I'm getting an expansion around the heart and chest, which means she is liberated. So her story should be released from the Akash of your DNA, which means what she was carrying and what she had to deliver and what she wanted healing with should no longer be getting in the way for you. We'll just see how that plays out and whether she shows up again. So, yeah. Thank you for sitting with that and for letting it all move, like letting the sensations be there, being the heart, let everything move, and just give her a bit of space, because it feels like that's what was needed. And I can't really see her anymore. I just kind of get the sense of gold light if I look for her now. And a yes from the guides. So, yeah, go you. Beautiful. Thank you. Oh, beautiful. Right, so I'm just going to check the silence. Lovely. Okay, so we've got a few questions here. Let's see what we've got. That was Kelly, that was Sandy. John, hello. That's a huge question. This is a beautiful question. This is a huge question. All right, John. John says, how do we stay grounded during challenging times? Beloved, the best way you can stay grounded is to maintain your focus in your feet. To honor the connection between the soles of your feet and the earth that they are constantly breathing with. The second best way you can stay grounded is to keep a little bit of your attention in how your whole body feels. When you are in motion, when you are busy, when you are talking to other people, when you are out and about, we suggest you try this in the street. That if you practice keeping your attention in the soles of your feet, breathing with the earth, and when you're comfortable with that, you extend your attention to keep a little attention in your heart and center, making that that lovely ability there to keep attention in more than one place at one time. And from there, when that is anchored, both the soles of the feet, the heart and center, to practice keeping attention in noticing the sensation of the body as a whole. So you keep a little attention inside yourself, internally. From there are many, many practices we could share, and we would be more than happy to work with you personally on a one-to-one basis for that. Or there are practices you can do every day when you are in your own space that will help anchor you and ground you when nothing is going on. Then there is the matter of practicing those practices in their reduced form when you are out and about, but life is not giving you many challenges. So safe moments when you are outside and busy and your attention is distracted. That will help you build a pathway home when your attention is being called out of your center. So that when those moments come which are specifically very challenging, you have already walked that pathway in easy times, in easy spaces, in non-challenging moments. And it is therefore available to you instantly in those moments which can be much more challenging and still require you to be very grounded. The more challenging the moment, the more grounded you need to be, because it is in that grounding state of centeredness that you have access to source, that you have access to support, that you are held in your pivot, in your central axis, in stability. Now, often for many people, this will be done for them through divine intervention. It is one of the ways that guides and higher self and guardian angels work through individuals is in time of crisis, to open that connection to infinite support through source, to stabilize the system. But as you take more ownership, and you are taking more ownership, you have greater responsibility for learning how to do this for yourself. Because although there are stabilizers for sure, they are not so necessary. They are due to come off. And so we celebrate you for asking this question and would like to offer more individual support on that, specifically, should you wish to open to that. And for now, we hope this helps and brings you through an exercise you can use in a practical way. Well, that was quite short, love. I hope you got something from that, John. And by all means, we can check in around that. Lovely, thanks, guys. So, just there you go, Pingle. Let's just see your question, love. Could the guides give me support on how to move out fear of taking up space and trust my voice when it wants to speak? Yeah, I almost choked reading that, didn't I? Well, okay. Get Lucy out of the way. Taking up space and trusting my voice when it wants to speak. Beloved, you have a most powerful voice. It is not about trusting your voice, it is about trusting your reach. There is a part of you knows the power of your resonance when you speak will lift others around you, will and change their state. And there is a past litany of past life consequences which you have accumulated where you have witnessed the magnitude of your own power to heal and transform others and help them be lifted, and where this has frightened them, which in turn has frightened you, because their reactions have been have landed with you, if you like. So there's a sense of your work being very effective and causing reality to change, to shift in others. And what we sense behind your question is a call for, is a request for support in how others are held in the field. How others are held, are supported in the field that you hold, so they may respond well. Positively to the changes you are going to be facilitating. We know that you have plenty of current life examples around you where people are responding very positively to how you lift and transform them in their reality, in ways they have asked for, in ways that they are calling in ways that they go on to be delighted that you have transformed them in. But what we see is the leftover dissonance from experiences that are not really of this life. And these are when you were using your gifts in a less supported way. You were not fully supported in speaking. In sharing. And there is a harmonic of the pain and sadness of having gifts without having full support that comes from other lives and other times. You know it is not true now, but that is not enough. An honoring of the old stories can help them leave your field. And we suggest right now that that is what you face. That is what you realize. That the constrictions on you come from different conditions in different lives, in different situations. And the very reason at the heart and core of them is not true now. So we speak it again with your focus on this now, because it brings that resonance that you have already within your awareness. I am fully supported in speaking my truth. I hold a safe field. All who enter for this work are safely, lovingly supported and receive it very well. I have seen this and I know it to be true. There is a just while they're saying this, it's bringing some energetics held in the field to light, and I'm getting kind of black constrictions around the throat. It's helpful that's showing up, because it's showing up, it's ready to transform in you. What the guides are showing me, though, it's almost like there's part of you holding them in place. They haven't come from outside. It's almost like you've done this to yourself. You've silenced yourself because it didn't go so well in another life, in another place, in another set of circumstances. And as we're just naming that, there's this asking that very hidden part of you in the shadows of the self that's holding the throat, going, no, I must not talk. I must not use my voice as powerfully as it is intended for. I must not be the bird with its true song. There we go. We're just naming that because it's almost like it's seeing itself in the now moment. It's getting the kind of come to the light of day. It's come to the now moment. It's looking around and going, oh, hang on a minute, what's true now? Is it necessary to continue that action, or can we allow? There we go. And just while we're asking these questions, love, I'm being shown a beautiful bright white light going out sideways, like laterally, but with tinged with blue, like fringed with blue light. And that's kind of like daylight blue, but also electric blue. And there's some lovely, so visually being given this very beautiful quality of your throat chakra fully expanded, of your self-expression in its naturalness. And it's almost bringing a focus to that light in its naturalness is really blasting light through the shadow from the past. No, and allowing that to dissolve a bit. There we go. And I'm just feeling a little more expansion as it's like this. It almost looks like a ghost light now, the old story of constriction there. And the expansion seems to be overtaking the strength of what was constricting. There is a kind of sadness in the heart. So Sandy, when you brought this up for you, I think, as John said, you are helping with other people, definitely helping other people, because this is here again now, and it was there again for Kelly, wasn't it, with what came up there. So there's a sadness in the heart that comes from the past, stories gone by. But again, it's that resonant frequency that rather than pushing it down, we let it breathe. Now, we'll free it from meaning. And it's a specific sadness connected exactly to this story of why would the beauty of the bird song ever be constricted? You know, why would that ever happen? Of course, that would create sadness, isn't it? So we let that sadness breathe, be felt, and leave the field. And I invite everyone here now just to hold the image of a bird singing. Just that. Or whatever comes for you. If you've got something specific that's here for you now, then there's an invitation for all of us to hold this image of the bird singing. And how natural. Beloved, we could speak at length on why did this happen in the first place? Why was your story ever allowed to take this direction? But we feel there is no need, for in this moment, and there is just this moment, you are the song of yourself. The harmonics that come from your voice return to source. They come from source, they return to source, their entire journey, and all they affect is held in love. Where a flower petal is drawn from the center and returns, so is your song of this nature. You will continue to let the old inhibitors dissolve in the light of the truth as you focus on it and recognize the beauty and the beautiful truth that is here. We know you have this within you. We are overemphasizing it to call your focus so strongly to the beauty of this beautiful song. For now is the time, love. You are helping people. It is that simple. You are being and doing what you are here to be and do. Everything else is clutter. Let it fall away. Can see what they speak. I can feel kind of old pain voices come up in the field. And that's a wonderful sign. They're so welcome. Yeah. Songs unsung. Pain that hasn't been heard about the songs that were unsung. Songs only slightly sung, songs slightly strangled while they were being sung. And, you know, those old pain voices. Rise up and lift up. What's here now? This is the truth that sustains. Bringing your focus to it makes an agreement with reality that this is the more real. This is all you have to do going forward, beloved. Remember that your free, uninhibited bird song is the more real. Now, as we're holding a focus on that, I can feel quite a lot happening now on the throat. Not just for you, Pingle, this is for others of us in this field now. You touched on something that connects to other people, so that's thank you that you have. And I can feel the guides working with us and quite fast, actually. It's almost like with us all holding that focus, a lot of us can release some of the constrictions that we've held in our throats around self-expression and lifting our voices and what will happen when we do, and that old adage of it's not failure we feel, it's fear, it's success, it's the power, it's how powerful we are. We're afraid that we're not powerful, we're afraid that we are. And that is just so old, isn't it? God. No space for that. No time for that. Okay, that's. And then with the hand, the guys are showing me them dusting their hands off. Like that's. They've wrapped that one up for us. Thank you, love. Thank you, guys. All right, so we have 3 beautiful questions. I'm going to give us a 2-minute break, and then we've got 3 beautiful questions, and I think we've got time for all those, absolutely. And then there won't be time for any more. So let's just take a 2-minute break, and we'll come back and we'll open to the last few questions in this session. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for holding the field. That was really beautiful that we did, and that we did that together. And for everyone where this is bringing things up and it continues beyond this session, you're welcome. Just send me an email if you feel like you could do with a little extra tweak or support or an attunement or something hasn't quite landed or settled. Just do let me know and send me an email, okay? But for now, mini break. Okay, guys, so last, thank you those of you who are staying. Beautiful. And Tingle, I just wanted, is it all right to share what you're saying? Tingle says, thank you so much. Feel more space in your heart and around your throat chakra and more peaceful. And you're seeing a nightingale singing in the night. That's wonderful. Oh my gosh. Beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for that. It's really, really lovely that we do that together and that we hold, feel together. Okay, guys. So, wow. Bingo hears a nightingale singing in the night and she listens inside. Wow. So that image of the bird we were all holding, there's a reason for it, wasn't there? That's quite a lovely affirmation. And Pinkle, that's so lovely you would share that. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing what's precious here. All right, lovely. So we have a few more questions. So Eve, hello. Eve, are you still with us, love? Is it true that because we are at a higher vibration, grounding to the earth will not work, but the earth will be grounding into us? Instead, we should ground into the sun or the new earth? Thoughts? That's a lovely question, isn't it? There we go. So let's just see what comes. You are always welcome to ground into the earth, for it holds within itself the harmonic frequency of pure love. The level of consciousness which you can be aware of grounding into is the divine earth. The earth is divine. The earth holds a harmonic frequency of truth and beauty. The earth holds a harmonic frequency of unconditional love. And although the manifest earth is always in the process of ascension, and you all are ascending within her, when you ground into anything, always make that intention to ground into the divinity of that beautiful consciousness you're resting in. Never, ever ground into anything less than unconditional love. And everything in all of existence has within it that dimension of itself, which is beneath all of the overlays, all of the muck, you might say, and the dross and the messy stories and the projections and the energetic chaos, which can also exist in various realms and dimensions of consciousness. Always know that beneath all of those overlays, there is always a divine blueprint, the divine I, the divine I am, the divine self. Gaia is no different. Ground down into the truth of Gaia, and you will always ground down into the highest, most harmonic, most held frequency, and you will be supported in that. There is no wounded earth that needs our healing. There is no being that is desperately crying out for our love. There are projections, veils, overlays, containing the histories of the distortions through Gaia's relationship with humanity, where she has had to be hold a field for humanity to experience itself as less than love, as separate within itself, within her, to all that is. And as a mother, she has held that field. And so for many, the connection to Gaia has been one that contains those characteristics, less than truth, where the connecting down into Gaia has met a connection of this is not truth. Back in ancient Egypt, this caused whole tribes to cut off their ability to ground into the planet. Such was the degree of separation within humankind at that point, that Gaia was perceived to be out of integrity, harmful, in fact, to the human consciousness. This was something that humanity was exploring, and a reflection of the separation from oneness that the collective had so far reached within themselves. However, it was not the highest truth. The highest truth is always available, always available. And we would suggest that, as well as grounding, that you also ground into the center of yourself. Believe it or not, the projections on the great central sun and the solar sun have also held their share of misprojections, of distortions, of being perceived as less than divine, of having human qualities projected upon them. And not divine human qualities, but wounded human qualities where humanity was, as we say, experiencing itself as separate. We would suggest exploring, grounding into the center of the self, where you are also one within, with all that is, with the planet, with the solar sun, with the great central sun. And from there, making your connections. But grounding is emphasized because the biological body is in a state, a vibration state of ascension at this time as well. And as the biological body goes through state changes, vibratory state changes, part of the nature of those state changes is for the biological body to come into a vibratory resonance of oneness, of recognition that it is an organism within the Gaia organism. And it is the divine resonances of the body recognizing its own divinity, as well as the Gaia divinity, that puts it in highest alignment and transcends that fear of what you might be grounding down into when you make your grounding connection. There is much we could say on this, beloved. We would love to talk more, perhaps in another space. And if you have more questions, again, in another space, we would like to hear them. For there is much to be said in this whole area. And it is a huge topic, for humanity itself is healing its own history of experiencing Gaia as less than love and less than loving and less than an integrity. We are not saying this is what you are experiencing, but that there is a collective story that is unraveling what Gaia has been to humanity and re-accessing something new. Like you say, in the sense that you, as you ask, you could ground down into new earth. We would always suggest grounding down into now earth, the truth of earth. Whatever that is in the moment, it will be divine and beyond all projections, all overlays, anything that's less than whole. See if there's something else on that. Such a beautiful topic, and it's so huge. There's so many facets to it. It's like a jewel, that question. It's just gorgeous. There's so many different ways of approaching it. We would also remind you that there is a dimension of yourself that is Gaia consciousness. And it is how you relate to this dimension of yourself that will determine how you feel about connecting within the planet. And just as with all things, there is a divine dimension within this dimension of yourself. And you can, through the simple intention, simply ask to ground down into what is true and pure. Make it very clear to yourself that all else leaves your field, and you does not touch you, does not enter you, and you do not connect with it. That you connect only with what is pure, true, benevolent, of unconditional love, and of appropriately high vibration. We hope this helps a little. Like I say, this is a beautiful jewel of a question. There are many, many facets to it. We hope we've touched on a few today. Thank you so much for asking. It brings us great joy to look at this with you and see if we can see from where you're seeing. We are not sure if we have, but we hope we have met you somewhere in that arena. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Eve. Thank you. Okay. Oh, thank you guys. So we have a question also from John and from Stephen. Nice. There we go. Stephen, please could I have some advice on the best way, on the best way to connect with Earth consciousness, elementals, oh, and especially my elven brethren. That's exciting. Wow. Oh, there's a lot of joy here now. Okay. Some of it's mine, but it's not all mine. A lot of this is coming from the guides. I'm just checking because I found that quite a joyful question. Right, okay. Hmm. Beloved, you would do well to place yourself in direct physical, lying down connection with the earth. We would say that you can connect with the elementals and Gaia and your elven brethren from anywhere. But you may find more reveals itself more naturally to you if you place your body in that natural lying down in the grass with the sunlight on your skin under a tree, your eyes closed in free time where there is nothing, no onus on you to be or do anything, or even to receive wisdom and answers. And they're showing me you with like a notebook next to you and a glass of something, funnily enough, what they're saying is. Because in that space, it is through the biology of your body that your elven brethren will speak to you. And you will put yourself in effortless, easeful connection with that biological experience of the body. When you take it out of its usual environments and do something a little not normal and make a space that is solely for this connection and receiving the dialogue that can come to you from there. Elves will speak to you in your dreams. They will they will use the tool of your imagination and your visuals to bring you quite detailed information, thorough information, creative inspiration, creative tools, including inspiration. But to make the connection, actually lying down in the grass with the sunlight on your skin and the trees above you, to simply be and breathe. Yes, with your notebook by your side. Yes, with a drink of something nice. Yes, in that time when no one needs you to be anyone to them or to do anything for them. You don't need to be anyone to yourself, more important, or do anything. It is in these specifically free times where the boundaries on what is real and what is not, on who you, your sense of who you, your sense of self, who you are and who you are not, can find a little fluidity and expand out beyond the known. For in order to tap into these connections, you must be present where they are also present. It is a convergence. They will meet you halfway. And yet, place yourself in their vicinity. They meet in the play of light on the skin. They meet in the refraction of the rays through sunlight. They meet in the liminal places. They meet in the abstract realms. They meet where there is a gap between what definitely is and what could be. Where boundaries are not so concrete. you have much to gain by allowing your imagination a little more space and domain in your daily life. There is a child at play within you who holds some precious keys that will influence the more sobering, important adult elements of your life of now. Prioritizing space for this childhood playful self to release you from some of those constraints, if only for a time boundary container of, say, 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there. Not only root you down, and they show me twisted golden roots woven all the way into the earth, a beautiful golden tree that seems to be emerging with this, will not only root you down, but will release these keys, and these keys will help you in your daily practical life. It is from the realms of imagination that your practical guidance will arrive. And we understand the dissonance of this, these arenas, if you like, and yet it is from those places of imagination the boundaries of life as you know it can be blown wide open, utterly expanded beyond the seemingly possible of the real and manifest now. And there is something of this in your life that wishes to enlighten the colors in your reality. Something here which is just this sort of some energy work going on up around kind of expansion around the right brain. It's kind of not here, it's out here. Something's, yeah, it's like a seed growing slowly, but very, very steadily and very definitely. And there's a huge enlargement of what we call right brain functionality, which is our ability to be in touch with the liminal, in touch with the abstract, and to feel and to in touch with the fluid, the formless, and the flow. I'm just going to let that opening and that energy work move the way it wants to. There's something around the eyes, literally around the way you can see. It wants to come off. Like an inhibitor. Yeah. Okay, good. That's a very good sign. It's almost like they're mapping, something here is being mapped to allow you to see more. At the moment, that means visions. It doesn't mean with your eyes open, I don't think, but we'll never limit that. You never know. Because as I was saying, that's the language your elven brethren will speak to you in, is a language of images and visuals. And there's a delimiting seems to be happening with that. And also showing me a little activational weaving going on with your central column and the centers, your chakra centers here now, to allow for greater elemental connectivity in everyday life. And I'm just hearing from the elementals, it's like, let us surprise you. You've made the request. We'll bring it. So I know you were asking, like, what more can you do? So we won't ignore that. We'll come to that. I'm just hearing make time and space for us in your mind, in your actions. And again, they're showing me with the connection to the notebook. So asking questions, again, automatic writing is that. I think that's what that's symbolizing. Asking questions and letting a burble of nonsense come first, but opening the flow through the act of writing. It's not necessarily the words that will come, but through the act of writing. So you act of asking the questions, the act of writing, they're showing me the visual landscape opens out a bit. And they say they've been working with you energetically to support enhanced connectivity with the earth and the elemental and the elven dimensions of consciousness, both within yourself and in your environment. So yes, love, that's there's a few directives there for you. Okay. Okay, love. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, so we have one more question, guys, and then we're going to call it a wrap. All right. So you've been with us for 2.5 hours now. You've done beautifully. And we are just going to give us our last little song. So, oh, Stephen, thank you. I'm glad that makes sense. Oh, it's really nice to hear. Right, so. Oh, Jana, I've just seen your question. Love, we can't do that this time, but I so want to come to that we will do it on the next one, okay? Or I'll send you a way to get in touch with me one-on-one because I really don't want to ignore that question. It's beautiful. Yeah, there's a lot come through for that. Oh, John, we asked. Okay, so John, we answered you. It's a wrap, isn't it? Right, okay. So let me just check. Jana's question. Jana, I'm really sorry. I'm getting a no around it for now. But I'm sensing that something around holding the field. Let me just check. Yeah. And I love your question, Jana. That is an awesome question. It's one of my questions. So I really want an answer on it. So just know that we are going to come back to that. Yeah, it's funny. It's just, we're not going to go into it now, but Jana's asked a wonderful question, which I will name. Yeah, what does my new weight mean? I feel stronger, but at the same time heavier. Yeah, I've got a lot going on around that too, and there's stuff coming in, and it's just there. So, Jan, if we wait for that answer, it's not just that we haven't got time for it. It feels like there's some more that wants to come in for me, for you, and for all of us around this. So next time we do one of these sessions, we'll put you up as a priority because I want to know what comes through on that one. Guys, we have done so beautifully today. I am just, we're amazing. We're absolutely beautiful. The guides that we've called in to support us and the questions you're asking and what it's bringing up. I've had such a wonderful time being witness to these, what's coming through. And I just think, yeah, Jana, it's also my question. Yeah, great job, all of us. Stephen, thank you. It's like, yeah, that's to all of us, I think. We really held the field for each other there. And I just want to take these moments to give a song of thank you, a nice internal song of thank you to each of us. Because you are amazing. I can feel that coming from the guides. I'm just getting this really strong flickering light. It's just like, wow. They're taking that invitation to send a thank you to everyone in this field and a celebration. And of course, I'm feeling us send that thank you and that celebration back out to them. And back out to the lovable that is, to our higher selves, to our souls, to God, Goddess, all that is, to all of life, the elementals, to Gaia, to the beautiful beings here with us now. Big hands. Big love. I'm just seeing us all lifting our hands as why I'm doing this, lifting our hands as though we're in a circle. So thank you. Thank you, thank you. Have a beautiful rest of Sunday, rest of day. And see you for the next one, guys. So for those of you that are on the Trust Your Own Guidance course, this was the last, call it the talk course, talk session in the course. I will convene for us a special group Zoom session where we can just connect and share, because I really felt that we wanted to talk to each other, not just engage with the material and the guides. So I'll check in with everyone as to when we schedule that, but it will be in the next week to 10 days maximum. I hopefully in the next week, because the sooner we do it, the better. All right. And then we can share with each other a little bit as well. Guys, thank you. Over and out.